Are you looking to make your desktop experiences with .NET MAUI even better? Well, some of the built-in controls directly in .NET MAUI really help you optimize the user experience, and I'm going to break down my favorite one today, so tune in. Hey everyone, I'm James, and right here on my YouTube channel, I talk all about .NET, .NET MAUI, Xamarin and Xamarin Forms, and just everything happening in the mobile and desktop space around .NET. Now, I recently came out with a video about the swipe view on .NET MAUI, a great way of adding some real cool functionality into your mobile applications. Now, some of you pointed out in my comments below that doesn't really work on all desktop experiences. So how do you make a better desktop experience for your users if there is no touchscreen, there is no swipe to do whatever? Well, how can you create a better experience? And if you're not using a swipe view, this thing built into .NET MAUI really helps build a great user experience. So let's just go ahead and get into it. Okay, so this is our coffee application. This is what we've been building out. It was a Xamarin Forms application. Now it's a .NET MAUI application. And here I have all my coffees. We have this nice little swipe view inside of here to do favorite and to do delete. So when I click on this, it does a little pop-up. Boom, we're totally good to go. Now here, this is running on Android. This will look pretty much exactly the same if I was running it over on iOS as well. Now, when I run this application on Windows, like we have here, let me go ahead and make this a little bit smaller. There we go. We can see all my different coffees in here grouped. And if I go to try to swipe, I don't have a touchscreen. I don't have a swipe anything on here. So I can't just drag this over. I guess I could probably do touch events and create different things on it to actually swipe the view. But there's different interactions that mobile users are used to versus desktop users. So in this case here, what we want to do is optimize for that desktop experience, specific with context menu controls. Basically think of them as right-click controls. When I right-click, you can hear me click kind of, I want a context menu to pop up. So we can do that inside of our application. In fact, you can add this into any control anywhere, just kind of like the swipe view. You could add it anywhere as well. So let's go ahead and do it. The first thing we need to know with context menus is that we can add them to any control, and that will be like the clickable control. So what we can see is that we have the swipe view and the swipe view items here, and we have our coffee card. So what we want to do is add a context menu to that coffee card. So I'm going to go ahead and expand this out just like that. All right, now when I do that, I'm able to add this special sort of fly out thing that the .NET MAUI team has. I don't really know why it's called this, but these fly out menu, context menu things are fascinating. But basically what you do is you go in and you say flyout base dot context flyout. And what this will do is it'll give you the ability to go in and create flyout menu items. So here I'm going to say menu flyout. And then inside of it, I'm going to create menu flyout items. Okay. And the first one here, I'm just going to go ahead and say text. I'm going to say favorite. And then I'll do another one here. And I'm going to say delete. Perfect. So if we look at it again, let me go ahead and minimize some of these windows down. We have a card, whatever object. It could be a label, it could be a button, anything like that. And this is going to be the coffee card. This is going to then add on a context flyout. And in this case, it's a menu flyout and they're flyout item menus, aka they're context menus. That's what we normally would call them. But I'm going to bring this back up. And now when I right click, let me zoom in here. We can see that we have favorite and delete, which is super duper cool, right? Look at that. Boop, 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 boop. Very cool. Now I can add some other things between them too. So if I wanted to, I could do a menu flyout separator inside of here. I'm going to save that here. And now when I right click, you can see there's this tiny little separator item in there. Let me zoom in really close. You can kind of see it. I'll point out to it right there. You can see it. A little menu in between. And now wherever I click on here, notice that's where that is going to open, right? So it's not like it's just like it's sticky to an XY pixel coordinate or anything like that, but anywhere on the actual item is where it's going to do it. So we have favorite, we have delete, and we're totally good to go. Cool. I can click on it, I can do stuff. Now, on top of this, there are a few things. So for example, I could have a clicked event. Now here, for example, I could, for all intents, like almost put it on the swiped item invoked if I wanted to. I would create a new menu item here. Now, this specific one here, this menu flyout item clicked, if I go to the code behind, we could see that it is going to be exactly the same, right? So if we looked here at this code, we could say, okay, well, this swipe item here is a sender. What's the binding context? I could, for all intents, just really kind of copy this here. And then right here, I could say, well, this is actually going to be a menu flyout item. There we go. I'm going to make this async. Perfect. Now, if I do that, I have my click event and get the binding context, which is my coffee, and I should be able to get it. Now, let's see if hot reload is going to work in this instance. When I create new stuff, I don't think it's going to. No. So let's go ahead and reload this really quick, and then we should get that clicked event inside of it. And this would be like the easiest way to sort of pull this down, right? So actually getting this just clicked item event inside of here. All right, so our application is starting up. Perfect, cool. So now when I click on this, hit favorite, I get my pop-up, favorited coffee, good to go, right? So there we go, we get that favorite, awesome. Now it's probably not exactly what you wanna do. So if we scroll up here, we could take a look and see how do we do commands and command parameters. Now I mentioned this before, if you wanted to, you could just go ahead and get rid of this clicked and say command. And then here I'm gonna say binding. Now I'm binding to the coffee item in my collection view, right? So if you're in a list view or collection view or something like that, you're gonna be binding originally to the item, not to your view model. So if I look at my coffee over here, let me go into my models, we could see that I could bind it to the test command, right? So if I wanted to, I could come in and say, let me do test command. And here I could go ahead and save that, right click, favorite. We get this breakpoint, test, we're inside this coffee. We can see here's our name coming in, our image, everything like that. I could continue again. Okay, so let's say we want to not bind to this test command, but we actually want to data bind here to our view model, which has this favorite call that passes in coffee. How can we get reference to that? Well, if we take a look at our swipe items here, we can see that we have this relative source data binding here. So we have a command parameter and then a command here that is a relative source ancestor type. It's going to walk up the chain and then look for the coffee equipment view model. And then it's going to go ahead and set the path here. Now, for some reason, I couldn't seem to get this data binding working with this ancestor view. I don't know if it's because how the context menus work or something else, but I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the GitHub. And if it's not reported, I'm going to report that back. And hopefully that gets cleaned up soon because it'd be great to just reuse this data binding there. But there's another way of binding and finding these sources. And in fact, previously, someone actually left a comment that said, well, this is cool, but did you know that you could just sort of change the source to be the page and set the binding there? That way you don't have to walk up the chain with this crazy syntax. And that actually works great here for the flyout items. So here's what we're gonna do is change this to command parameter. And just like I did before, I'm gonna pass in dot. And what's that gonna do is it's gonna pass the coffee to the specific command that I want to go ahead and create and have pass into it. Now, to change our reference source, we're gonna wanna go ahead and give our page a name. So here I'm gonna say x:\name coffee page. And I had already done this previously, but this is basically allowing me to reference this in code later. So I can say, hey, change the source of this binding to the page source. And then specifically, let me go ahead and grab that favorite command. So let me go ahead and do that here. So what we're gonna do is go down here. I'm gonna say command, and then I'm gonna say binding, just like I did before. So this isn't anything too different. I'm gonna say binding. I'm gonna say source, just like I did before, but I'm gonna say x:\reference. And this type, I'm gonna say coffee page, all right? So this is saying, hey, change the binding source to this page. All right, follow with me here so far. And then I'll say path. And then I have to say binding context dot favorite command. Because remember here in this case, I am specifically saying use the source of the coffee page, and then that could be anything on the page, but specifically use the path of binding context dot favorite page. So now our favorite command. So now when I run this application, what we're going to see is that this specific binding will reference the page and call into that favorite command whenever I click on it. So I'm going to go here, there we go, right click, favorite, and just like that, I've hit my command. I have my coffee being passed in, there it is, and it's going to do a pop-up, just like we would thought, and there we go. So there's multiple ways to get it, which is kind of cool that there's so many different ways to sort of bind these all up and get it working based on the different objects that are in there. Okay, there's a few more things that I want to talk about as well. So if I go into this, we can customize it in a lot more ways. So we have this flyout separator that I talked about, but there's other things on there as well. So one thing that I can point out here is that there is specifically support for icons. So there's an icon image source, right? So if I say icon, I can see the icon image source coming up, and then I can change that to anything. That could be an image inside my application, or specifically that could be a font. So if we take a look at our flyouts here, we can see that I have Font Awesome in here. So I could actually change that here. So let's go into my solution, and I'm going to go into my app shell. And as I scroll down, we're going to see that I'm using this glyph here, right? So there's this Font Awesome, there's color in here, and I'm going to use this font image source. So there we go. Okay, cool. So we're going to go back over into our page. And what I'm going to do is for the favorite, I'm going to say menu flyout item dot icon source, and go ahead and paste that in there. Now I'm going to go ahead and need to do one last thing, which is give this thing a reference to Font Awesome over here. So I'm going to go back up to the top. I'm going to grab the Font Awesome namespace. Then I'm going to paste this up here one more time so I have access to it here. And now when I go in, we can see that I get the little coffee icon right there automatically. Let's look at that code one more time here. So we can see that I have the menu flyout item, icon image source. This is using a font image source, or it could be an image. It could be anything that you want. It doesn't have to be a glyph. And this is using a specific color of dark and light mode here. So I'm doing a static resource for the light mode and a dark mode here. Whenever the app theme changes, I'm in dark mode now. And then it's going to specifically reference this Font Awesome icons. And I have a whole another video on how to do that. It's super simple in .NET MAUI. I'll put links down below as well. So that's pretty cool, right? So we can go ahead and spice that up a little bit. We could do one more thing. What if we wanted to have more options besides favorite and delete? So let's say I wanted to come in and I wanted to do a menu flyout separator. There you go, one more of those. And then what if I wanted to do a menu flyout sub item? So for example, what if I wanted to have an option of options, right? So I could do that. So here I'm going to say text and I'll say options. There we go. And now what I can do is I can just go ahead and add some more options in there. I'll say option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4. Perfect. Now I'm going to hit save here. Now this is a little bit different because we have 2 menu items with separators and then this submenu item. The first thing will be called options, which is what we're going to see in the menu, and then 4 options underneath it. So now when I right click, we get favorite, delete, and then options. And notice I now get 4 more options underneath them, which is so cool. So this is highly customizable, enabling you to create these great experiences inside of your .NET MAUI desktop apps. Well, there you have it. That's an overview of how to use the context menu or flyout item menu thingies inside of .NET MAUI to add great functionality into your desktop apps. This is going to work exactly the same, whether you're running on Windows or you're over on your Mac. You're going to get that great right-click experience to add those options. Well, there you go. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. I'll leave all the documentation links down there. If you like this video at all, make sure you give it a thumbs up. I do these videos on my weekends, and on this one is a holiday weekend, so I'm just recording this on my holiday weekend off. So if you like this content, be sure to like and subscribe. And of course, if you have any questions or comments or recommendations of other things you want to see, leave them in the comments below. That's going to do it for this video. So until next time, thanks for watching.